You're listening to a download from the outdoorstation.co.uk. Number 402.
Yes, I did prepare for this particular challenge by getting my nails done.
As any professional person should do.
As any challenger should. It's important that you stand around in some 3-inch stilettos with painted nails and professionally done hair and makeup as your challenge dry run, really.
Okay.
Well, I came here for the scenery and to get a view of Scotland all the way across, and for the physical and mental challenge, and I got all of that. I got great photos, and I was challenged physically and mentally, so it was a win all the way around.
Hello podcast fans, and welcome once again to the Outdoors Station. I know it's been a while since I recorded a podcast, but I've been inspired by recent activities to just update you with some of the things that have been going on, really. But let me first start by where I am and the date. Today is Sunday the 22nd of May 2016, and I am currently on the 2016 TGO Challenge, walking from the west to the east coast of Scotland. A journey of about 190 miles, depending on which route you take, 190, 200 miles, something like that. This year's challenge has been fairly varied, like they are every year, and the weather on the whole has been probably a bit warmer than normal. However, typical of Scotland, the weather has thrown a few surprises at you when you least expect it. And certainly recent events about an hour or so ago really did do exactly that. I'm currently standing just north of Loch Callater. I passed Loch Callater Lodge, that den of iniquity, where they're getting geared up for a night of social enjoyment and celebration of life in general. And many people were setting up camp there on what was an overcast but sunshine and sort of shower type day. We made ourselves north of Loch Callater to the bottom of Jocks Road before we go over the top into Glen Clover, and found a lovely patch of grass just before the climb by the stream, as you can probably hear in the background. Then it started to rain and blow, and my goodness me, didn't it rain and blow. I'm with my fellow walking compatriots, Lee and Tony, meeting up with them halfway across at Fort Augustus. We've been walking together since, and we were aiming for this patch of grass that we knew was there before the weather turned. So we just literally were just pitching our tents as it started to rain, and then the wind picked up as well. And as we did so, as anybody knows, when you're pitching a tent in that sort of weather, you obviously pitch against the wind and protect yourself as much as possible, which we all did as the wind picked up. And then as soon as we had everything pitched and we dived in, as it were, the wind did a complete 180 and started to hammer from the opposite direction. I'm in the Lux Hex Peak V4A, which has to say has proved itself to be exceptional during this challenge. It's rock solid, got it pegged down at every possible peg point. Bit of a lull in the wind, I managed to nip out and quickly readjust the pegs because I put the stronger V pegs, if you like, against the wind, which were now of course away from the wind, and I had to do a quick bit of adjustment, pull all the guys tight, dive back in again before the rain and the wind picked up and hammered again for another hour. And then all of a sudden it stops, literally. I had dived into my bivvy bag that I had brought with me. I didn't bring the inner with me this time. I just brought a prototype bivvy bag that I've been working on, which has been an absolute godsend, I have to say, for numerous reasons, but it's been put to the test. So I sort of put the insulation in, had my quilt in there, so I dived in that, and actually I found the wind and the rain fairly therapeutic. So I actually just dozed off to sleep, only to be woken a few minutes ago by Tony saying, "My goodness me," that took us by surprise. So I stuck out for a minute, and I'd already eaten my meal. Got one of my dehydrated meals, which was fish in a white wine sauce, which I had with pasta. And so I thought I'd just nip out and clean the pans, which I've just done by the stream, and perhaps do a bit of a podcast. Now, the reason I'm doing a bit of a recording is manifold, really. I had a bit of a hiatus with the last series, and got to the end of the range of podcasts that I'd done, and I decided to take a bit of a break for numerous reasons, partly commercial, partly inspirational, partly because I was tired. And during this particular crossing, I've had more people than I expected ask me if I am continuing doing the podcasts, which was very flattering. They obviously enjoyed it, and in particular the videos and the podcasts all related to the TGO challenge. Many people had listened to, and it given them inspiration as to what they could potentially expect, and also just entertainment really on some of the characters they may meet on the way. And certainly many first timers I've spoken to have all watched the videos with great interest several times over. And have found, which has been important to me actually, they've all agreed that actually the videos did show what the challenge can actually entail, and to be prepared for it. And many people, many of those rather, have actually been from overseas, which is important, because if you're not particularly experienced in the Scottish weather and the Highlands and what's underfoot, etc., it can take you by surprise when there aren't any marked trails and it isn't soft rolling heather and glorious sunshine and kilts all the time. So that's been good. So, all part and parcel. I brought the gear with me. I sort of decided not to do one because I've obviously done several crossings now, both in audio and video format, and I thought it just needed a bit of a break and a bit of a rest. And so consequently decided to keep it in the bag just in case. And that just-in-case moment has just arrived. So here I am, as I say, by the stream, cleaning out my pans in Loch Callater, and looking at a overcast sky, but there's a bit of blue patches now, a little bit of mist just on the top of Jocks Road there, but everything is looking beautifully green and calm, as Scotland can do. If I turn around and look the other way, back to Loch Callater and Loch Callater Lodge, you wouldn't have thought that half an hour ago all hell was breaking loose, basically. But that's Scotland for you. So what's been happening on the podcast front at our outdoor station, Backpacking Light? Well, quite a variety you might be interested in knowing. It's been a bit of an epic time on a sort of personal level. To give you an example, Rose and I put the house on the market last year, and they took it off again at Christmas time, put it on again first thing in 2016, and it sold within a very, very short period of time, within a week or 2 weeks. And as these things do, the legal people got involved and seemed to take absolutely forever and put more stress on everybody involved by not answering simple questions or answering the phone or whatever. But the long and the short of it was the house was completed. We moved out on the Tuesday, handed the keys over, did the usual rush round, check the meters, tried to sort out how to cancel different accounts, etc. I packed the bags for the TGO on the Wednesday, and I set off on Thursday morning at 6 a.m. So the first few days of the challenge for me was lost in a haze of confusion and exhaustion, to be honest. And it was only sort of 5 days in, after I'd had a few nights of 12 hours sleep in the wind and rain, actually. I find the rain very restful when I'm sleeping. And finally managed to catch up and actually start to feel now that I'm ready for the challenge to start. But of course, as anybody knows that does it, at this sort of stage, when you pass Braemar, you're on the downhill stretch. And it's Sunday today, and we will be in Montrose, and it'll be all over on Thursday. So there's only 4 days to go. On the business front, backpacking light. Oh, so many things to talk about. Like a lot of online businesses, we've been hit by the Amazon effect. We have a lot of items that are also available on Amazon, and a lot of people don't realise that when they do buy these items, although they're saving, in some cases, quite a lot of money, 20, 30, 40% in some cases, the actual goods are not coming from the UK, not even coming from Europe actually, but they're actually coming from Japan or China or whatever. And although they wait a bit longer, they obviously have made a considerable saving, and consequently, it has, the Amazon effect has hit us quite considerably in the last couple of years, and it's something that has made us think about what we're doing and where we're going. We were going to have our show this year. It proved to be very popular. We've had a lot of people contact us about that. But as I say, with the timing of the sale of the house and a few other things that were going on, we decided not to risk it, which is probably a good thing because it all came together at roughly the same time. If we'd had the show, it would have been, a week, 2 weeks before the TGO, which, as I say, was literally a week, 2 weeks before we exchanged and finally sold the house and moved out. So it was prudent not to do that. So that was the reason we didn't do that. But we're still located in the same place in Malvern for the business, and we're currently moved into some rented accommodation while we work out where we are going. As I mentioned, I was using a prototype bivy bag for this trip. It's something that a direction that we've sort of been forced to go into, as I say, due to to what I class as the Amazon effect. And we've now taken on some commercial sewing machine and some more equipment and a cutting table and various things. And we hope to be making some ground sheets, some bucket ground sheets for some of the products that we do sell, and also for customers who want custom-made items. Which I'm sure there is a lot of interest in. This particular bivvy, as most people know, most bivvies available on the market, such as the RAB survival zones, or the Ascent, or the Alp Kit bivvy, or the sort of ex-army bivvy, and numerous ones really, all tend to enclose you in a fairly small area. And are targeted purely to be bivvies which you would sleep in using them on their own, possibly without a tarp, and therefore they're a bit more not durable, but a bit heavier duty and zip up tight. But they're also bivvies which are not suitable for the thicker sleeping mats, the 2.5-inch Thermarest mats, or the X-bed mats, the down mats, the Sin mats, etc., the Neo Airs and such. So I wanted to produce a bivy bag which you could use, or specifically use with tarps, but use with a deeper mattress, which had access without having to have an additional 3 or 4 foot over the length of the tarp to get in and out of it. People who've used bivy bags will understand what I mean. Actually, when you get into a bivy bag, the opening isn't big enough to actually sit on top of it and then get into it. You have to be at the head of the bivy bag and wriggle into it like a mummy bag. It's hard to describe. I'll do it better on video when I get round to it. So I've been working on that, and that's proved to be great. 2-layer event, nice lightweight base, and it has been real godsend. A hefty long zip on it, so the bag opens virtually down to the knees, so you literally roll the top back and sit on it and get into it, as opposed to slide into it. And in the limited space that I've got inside the V4, that's been pretty good actually, looking at the V4 now. But it's certainly come to the conclusion that the V4A, as the V4 was before it, is just fractionally too small for me. So even though I lie comfortably in it, one end of me or the other is just touching the outer skin. So certainly 6'2", you need the F6. Do I regret bringing it? No, not really. I wanted to test it in some good serious conditions, and it's held up exceedingly well, and it's pitched now, as I look at it, tight as a drum, with all the pegging points on it. So that's been quite good. The other items that I've been working on, which have failed to arrive, it's so frustrating getting stuff made in the UK. I started back in October with a couple of companies for the wilderness quilt that a lot of people have been asking about, understandably. And I was saying, yes, it's been redesigned. We're expecting it in spring, and then we're expecting it a bit later. Anyway, the long and the short of it was the people working on the down version literally delivered something they should have been ashamed of the week of the challenge, with the materials that were used. A terrible bit of manufacturing, and unfortunately I don't think we will be pursuing it with them. However, because we've got our own machines now, we might actually be making the shells up ourselves, which would make life an awful lot easier, because we can then custom make it a bit more for people, described size. And then the other company was making a Primaloft version, three Primaloft versions, a lightweight version, a heavier Primaloft version, and a version with the Thermotex as an outer skin. And would you believe that arrived the day that I left? So I got on the train and I was heading up to Scotland, and Rose gave me a call and said, "Oh, guess what's arrived?" And that was a fat lot of good that's arrived. So that's been disappointing, but I'll look forward to seeing that when I get back, and we'll see where we go with the quilt front. But I'm still using the original prototype of the Wilderness 3 quilt from 2 years ago now. And it's been great. It's been great. I just wish I could find somebody to make these things properly for me in this country, which has been a bit disheartening. The other thing that would have been ideal to have for the TGO and test is some lightweight gaiters. There are quite a few gaiters on the market, but nothing quite akin to these, which are designed to work with trail shoes and sort of lighter of the boot variety. But I believe that will be finalised in June. So hopefully we'll have some of those on the site. So as you can see, it's been a series of disappointments, really. Very frustrating to have all these plans and hopes that we'll have a whole range of new backpacking light bespoke items by springtime, only to be disappointed. Here we are at virtually the end of May. But we'll see where our own sewing facility takes us, and certainly keep an eye on the website and on our mailing list, if you would, for things related to items that we'll be making, which obviously will include all sorts of things to do with bags and ground sheets and nests and all sorts of exciting things. So I won't ramble on too much about that now, because I'm not too sure what we are making. But I'll when we get back, we'll sort that one out. What else? Yes, the interesting thing, I always like to do a bit of market research when doing the TGO challenge. It's always a good litmus test, as I class it, for people and what they're buying, what their interests are, how they research this particular event and any other event, and certainly overseas people as well, where they get their information from and what the trends are. And certainly it seems to be that the trend everybody has these days is video. It's all video first. A lot of people, yes, they refer to blogs, but blogs don't seem to have the influences they initially had. Although, obviously, a lot of people do follow certain bloggers that are reliable and consistent and have a wide knowledge of their subject matter. And magazines, yes, magazines are still of interest, but, much further down the scale than before. It's all video-based, which is really made me think about one or two things that I'd like to do with the outdoor station, which I sort of alluded to last year when I did a questionnaire, which many people filled in and gave me their thoughts and feelings on the station activities, what we do, and also what we could possibly be doing in the future. And even since then, in 12 months, technology has moved on even further. And as I say, we are moving. And I'm wanting to move where I've got super fast broadband, because I'm fairly convinced that there is an opportunity to produce some quite interesting and informative and innovative entertainment in the video format in the future. So again, I shall announce that and more details about that when things start to move. But that's one of those things which are irons in the fire, and also one of the reasons I've taken this sort of period of time to just reflect and analyse where we are, what we've done, what we're doing, and if people are still as keen and interested in the subject matter as they were before. And certainly, as I say, many conversations I've had in the last week or so have implied that is definitely the case, which is great. It's always of great interest to me during the challenge to see how people's attitude and views are towards their equipment and where they've actually got it from. I seem to notice this year that Z-Packs or Z-Packs equipment seems to have crept in many forms. The shelter, and particularly the rucksack, and certainly one or two people with clothing. Seems to be more of that this year, and people have been more than happy to buy direct from overseas, which is another common thing which has happened. We notice really on the internet. There's more confidence these days in buying direct from perhaps unknown or little-known cottage manufacturers from overseas, mainly the US. And I understand the chap from Z-Packs actually did the challenge last year, so he's in good stead to understand some of the requirements needed from the equipment. But it's been interesting to see more of those items dotted around the campsite and on people's backs as we do the crossing. The Trail Star, the MLD Trail Star, seems to be less in appearance this time. It was 2 years ago or a year or so ago. Everybody seemed to have a Trail Star, but I've only seen one or two, which has been quite interesting. There's been a few variations of the, I think Six Moons do one, I've forgotten what the name of it is now, the something solo. Colin Ibbetson's tent, which is a single pole construction. He uses Cuban fibre with his. There's been a few of those that have popped up, and they look absolutely rock solid in all the weather, which has been great. As I said, there's a certain similarity between those and Six Moons, and I think Z-Packs design. That obviously, there's only so many things you can do with a pole and a piece of material, but the people using Collins have been very pleased with that one. So there's a few of those popping around, as I say, a few of the Six Moons as well. I remember one stage, we were talking about it earlier on today, at one stage, one year, everybody had Go-Lite packs. Obviously Go-Lite have been defunct now for a while, and there's still a few Go-Lite packs around, and people are still very happy with them. And I notice that in the news, the overseas news, the people behind Go-Lite are actually relaunching a different brand, but based with similar designs, I understand, in the States. But I'm not too sure what their international plans are. So if you Google Go-Lite or Coop relaunching Go-Lite under a different name, I'm sure you'll see some news articles relating to that particular story. What else? Cooking systems. I couldn't see any sort of common approach to cooking systems. Caldera cones still seem to be most prominent for people using alcohol-based stoves, but they have changed the burner from being the Caldera one, which is sort of a bit of a flimsy pop can type stove, to either the Tokes siphon stove or the Avenue burner, which gives out a phenomenal amount of heat in a very short period of time. I'm not too sure on the first level of these different stoves, but certainly the people that have been using the Caldera system with their appropriate pan have been very pleased with the results, so that seems to be good. No other common things. I've seen quite a few new Osprey packs. There seem to be a lot of people enjoying the new range of Exos packs, and they look quite smart on the hills too. There's been quite a few people seen with those, but there's been no sort of sweeping generalisation, as I say, as there was one year when Go-Lite seemed to be everywhere at the moment. So it's always good. It's a good litmus test, as they say, to come onto the challenge and see what the trends are, see where people are, where they're getting their stuff from, and what their interests are. However, I think the final test will be, or the final observation will be, certainly when we get to the Park Hotel in Montrose and we see all the packs lined up outside of people go in and check in and then go to the bar, and then obviously the people that go down to the campsite. That will be the best opportunity to see what is common or not amongst the rucksacks and the shelter front. So we'll wait until we get to Montrose for that. Now on this challenge itself, it's quite interesting really. We have, we have one honeymoon. Yes, it has happened before now that people have got married at the end of the challenge or during the challenge. But Andy and Kate, yes, Andy Howell, the blogger, must be this way. They're on their honeymoon. Would you believe? Now, you see, I know what Andy's like. I mean, Andy obviously booked the TGO challenge and all the accommodation and various things beforehand. And suddenly, out of the blue, Kate said they decided to get married, which was, of course, the week before they went on the TGO challenge. And Andy, being a sort of tight-fisted individual that he is, thought, well, I'm not going to waste it. Let's not go somewhere warm and exotic. Let's do the TGO challenge and call it our honeymoon. So it's been quite interesting to see him a few times, and Kate are on good spirits, but they're on their honeymoon, which is, I think, is definitely a first on the TGO challenge. And as I say, that people have got married before at the end. I think I've been on it once before, and there was a couple getting married and got to the end of the challenge, and they went off and got married. Well, we have Jenny Wheeler is getting married at the end of this challenge. I saw Jenny right at the very beginning, walked with her for a bit. Her partner Ian would normally be doing it with her, but he's not been well of late. And everybody's invited at the end of the challenge, wearing the challenge T-shirts, to come to the wedding. And they're apparently squeezing the wedding in during the festivities at the very end of the event. The story changes and evolves over the period of time as you hear it, but as I understood at the beginning of the challenge, they were doing it obviously at the end, everybody's invited, and then a few days ago, then it's everybody's invited. They've managed to narrow the whole ceremony down to 15 minutes. Due to Scottish law, there can't be any open alcohol in the room when you get married. So I believe they're ducking out into another room somewhere, because I'm sure there will be one or two open alcohol vessels in the room at the time. Everybody's going to dive in, wish them all the best, witness their wedding, and then dive back to the bar before getting on with the festivities at the end of the challenge. So that'll be quite entertaining. I'm sure you'll hear about that if you're interested, looking on various blog sites and news associated with the event in forthcoming months and years, probably. So that's very good. So we wish them well. I may even obviously record a bit or whatever, if nothing else, the celebrations afterwards, which is fantastic. So that's Jenny and Ian, and we wish them all well. Well, turning and looking east once again, the cloud has certainly darkened, and it looks like there might be a little bit more rain coming in on the east side of Jocks Road. There's a couple of magnificent waterfalls I can see pouring down as the snow melts on the tops. There hasn't been much snow this year, actually. There's been patches of snow. I mean, we are talking literally very, very small patches of snow. And the people that have been doing the tops have said it's been exceedingly good conditions. Seems to be a lot thicker heather this year, but maybe that was because I was so tired and exhausted. Just trying to get through the heather seemed like a fairly exhausting process this year. But the conditions have generally been pretty good. Number of people dropping out seems, when I spoke to Control, was about 24 yesterday, which is about right. There's normally about sort of 10% of the people drop out at this stage. But everybody that I've spoken to, and certainly the overseas people, seem to be very, very aware of some of the flesh spots on the actual challenge route. Loch Callater being one of them, Braemar, Ballater, Fort Augustus, and they know exactly where all the fun parts are, and they've been joining in with great enthusiasm as some of the evening's consumption of alcohol has taken place. I have to say I'm not a great drinker, and I don't mind a few drinks and to join in the spirit of things, but I tend to leave people to get on with it when it's going to be a very, very late night. And certainly somebody came staggering into the campsite in Braemar last night at, 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning, and disturbing an awful lot of people in the process, thinking it was hilarious to be trying to put a tent up in those conditions when they were completely plastered, which for some people found that quite amusing, and others, like myself, the majority in fact found it rather annoying to have somebody making that much noise and disturbing you. And of course they're sound asleep, snoring their heads off when you've packed up and gone in the morning, and they think nothing of it, which is a great shame. But that's people for you, and the TGO Challenge is full of 300 or so of them, so everybody's different. Well, that pretty well winds that up, I think. I've touched on most things I was been thinking about the last few days. As I say, I'm very, very grateful for the people that listen to the podcasts and have said how much they enjoy them. It's been really, really touching to hear that, and it's given me, inspired me to actually pick the recorder out and actually record something on this particular trip. And so, as I say, do keep in touch, do keep looking back to see if we've released any more, because I have a feeling that whatever comes next will be much more interesting as regards specific announcements to do with either certain products that we're working on or certain developments we're working on a media front for the outdoor station, and where we hope to be taking that. But it's pleasing that the audience is still happy and you're still enjoying the content, which is the most important thing for me. And, well, let's hope it continues. So, from the bottom of Jocks Road in Loch Callater, on the TGO Challenge, May 2016, I'm going to bid you farewell, and I shall be back, hopefully, in the not-too-distant future. Bye for now.
Well, how did it all end this year? Did Jenny and Ian get married? Or more importantly, did Andy and Kate actually stay married? Well, the wedding took place, much to the total surprise of special Skype guest Jenny's mum, who didn't know it was going to happen, along with some very unique vows.
I promise to have faith in you. And encourage you to fulfill your dreams. I promise that from this day forward, you shall not walk alone.
I promise that from this day forward, you shall not walk alone, except perhaps on future challenges.
Thank you. Ian and Jenny, you have now both made a solemn and binding contract by virtue of the declarations you have made to each other, your exchange of rings made in my presence and those of your witnesses and guests. And it gives me great pleasure to now pronounce you husband and wife. And in a time-honoured fashion, you may now kiss your bride again.
So, Kate, do tell us all, how has your fantastic, well-organised, superbly funded and luxurious honeymoon been?
Well, Bob, we've made it all the way from the west coast of Scotland to the east coast of Scotland, and our marriage is still intact. Okay. And that, frankly, is a test of its durability, in my opinion. It's been great. It's been really lovely. The weather to start with was absolutely superb, as good as anything that could be expected. All through the crossing, actually, it's just been really nice, and a very good way to get over the stresses and strains of organising the actual wedding itself.
The week before you came away?
Yes, I did prepare for this particular challenge by getting my nails done.
As any professional person should do.
As any challenger should. It's important that you stand around in some 3-inch stilettos with painted nails and professionally done hair and makeup as your challenge dry run, really.
Okay. And as we know, Andy has a reputation for opulence and luxury. I presume that every night has been something romantic and gorgeous.
Well, the dehydrated chili was a particular favourite. The dehydrated lamb casserole was another, memorable evening.
And the accommodation, jacuzzis, that sort of thing?
Well, I mean, a substantially sized tent, I will have you know. Substantially sized tent, enough for, any honeymooning couples.
Okay.
All requirements catered for.
And the Coldstream made do?
The cold streams and the sore feet and the sort of slight air of physical discomfort. As I said, I prepared for them by, the Saturday before that, getting actually married.
So I presume then Andy was massaging your feet and your back, obviously, every night.
Bob, you know Andy so well.
Sometimes when we see our own country through the eyes of others, it helps us appreciate what we have. Once again this year, I spoke with a few overseas visitors for their impression of Scotland and the TGO Challenge. First up, Chris Tunsing and Jeff Bosch from the US.
Well, I came here for the scenery and to get a view of Scotland all the way across, and for the physical and mental challenge, and I got all of that. I got great photos, and I was challenged physically and mentally, so it was a win all the way around.
Was it what you were expecting?
It was, in the sense that I read a lot of people's accounts of coming over here and doing this, and what I experienced was in accord with what they wrote about. However, until I actually felt it, I didn't fully understand what they were talking about. Now I do.
What are your thoughts on the landscape you passed through going from west to east?
It's fantastic. I mean, in a short 200 miles, I think it's one of the most beautiful parts of the earth. It's in some places it's gentle and soft, and others it's just very rugged and harsh, and you get to see all of that. It's fantastic.
And final question, how has the social side been for you as an event?
It was in between. I think it could have been busier if we wanted it to be, but there were times when we simply wanted to sleep. I think it was just right. We managed to track kind of down the middle of the road there. There was as much social activity as we wanted, and everybody was wonderful. That was a real plus to all of this. Everybody was in a great spirit the whole time, and it was great fun meeting all those folks.
It was fantastic. Quite the challenge. It was more than I expected, having had experience hiking in the east and of the United States, as well as the west and the Sierras and Wyoming. The terrain was very challenging, I thought, compared to what I had done previously.
But you were prepared for it?
I was prepared somewhat physically, but I would probably, knowing now what would be necessary, would be doing a bit more work in preparation for this.
So how would you describe the landscape? Was the landscape enjoyable even though it was tough?
Oh, it was spectacular. The glens, the mountains, the up and down into a whole new scene, the wildlife, the fauna. It was just totally different than anything I had ever experienced in my life.
And was it a pleasure to go through that?
Oh yeah. Going down one glen, seeing maybe 200 deer. I've never seen that in my life. I've seen a lot of deer, but never that many.
And what are your thoughts on the social side of things?
It was great. I mean, we struggled after day 2 and 3 and began to meet up with people who were very experienced with the event, and they willingly carried us through the very most difficult parts of the travels, and we're just so happy to do that, and even took their time to where they could have just forged ahead and left us in the dust, and that was great, and the camaraderie was all there too.
2 of the 4-man Ohegan party from Canada dropped out in the first few days, but Dara and his son Liam completed the challenge.
Overall, absolutely fantastic. Yeah, because looking for an adventure, looking for something tough, challenging, great fun with a bit of camaraderie. And someone sent me an email, said, "You'd like this?" And I went and looked online, saw some of your stuff, and the whole thing looked, yes, I'm in. Tough challenge. Lots of really exciting outdoor places and interesting people to meet.
And was Scotland what you thought Scotland would be like? Is this your first time here?
I've been here before, drove through some of the glens and so on, said this would be nice, but a great sense of remoteness, much like some of the remote parts of Canada in a way, and very tough hiking, tougher probably than some of the stuff we have in Canada, less than other parts. Wonderful.
And how did you feel about the crossing from west to east, crossing a landscape?
Oh, that just makes the different areas as you go through, starting out in Torridon and coming up the early mountains and realizing, wow, this is a push, this is a serious challenge. And then you come to you come to the west, more gentle, easier terrain. The bogs are fantastic. Just the idea of map and compass. And if you don't have your map and compass, you bloody could die here. But wonderful if you know what you're doing. Yeah.
And the actual event itself, the social side, the friends you made, the people you met along the way, the places you've been through, how did you feel about that?
Well, I think it's the essence of it, that we met people along the way who helped us with a little bit of injury things, people who fed us, watered us, encouraged us. It was just great, yeah, met people who similar ilk, who just like the challenge, like to be in the outdoors, love to snuggle up in a sleeping bag at night and realise it's a bit cold, but it's great.
Yeah, it went really well. I found that after about a couple of days, I realised that this was going to be quite a challenge, and it's called a challenge for a reason. I came into it with almost no expectations. Said, okay, walk across Scotland. I hear there's a bunch of other people doing it, and really didn't know what to expect. So quickly realised that this was going to be quite a mental and a physical challenge, but found that the landscape kept you going. The weather was spectacular this year. I think that was something that we hadn't really planned on. We sort of thought that it would be raining the whole time, So we were prepared for foul weather and found that Scotland, really surprised us, and sunshine and the first 4 days without rain. Really nice conditions for camping, easy to find spots, and just had a great time.
And so were there any surprises for you during this particular period of time for the whole trip?
We had my brother and my brother-in-law dropped out, unfortunately. So I think what surprised us was that it took a lot of mental sort of gumption, a lot of commitment to the challenge to get through it. So we had our two comrades drop out, and that sort of was a wake-up call to say, okay, we've got to decide, what is this challenge for us? What does it mean for us to carry on without them? There were some physical challenges. I had a knee problem, and suddenly I just met these other challengers and kind of talked it out with them and realized that, oh yeah, this is normal. Everything, you're always going to have something get broken, and just powered through it. Managed to meet another physiotherapist along the road, and he gave me a whole checkout, and then someone lent me a knee brace, and someone gave me some tape, and off we went, and sort of mended as we went.
And the landscape, compared to obviously Canada, I mean, the vision of Canada is always very remote and tough. But does Scotland compare well to that?
It does. I think it almost compares extremely well to the Yukon, and that's one of our favorite places to go. I call it sort of the ancient mountains, the thought that things are kind of older than just a few generations. When you think of Canada, you think of the Rocky Mountains. They're all very new and rough and jagged and young mountains, and that's fine. That's got its own charm. But this equated for me more like the mountains we see far up north in Canada, where they're really worn down mountains. They've got a lot of character, a lot of history, was just amazed to find that there were trails going through these mountains, and that you could easily kind of navigate. In 14 days we had maybe 5-10 kilometers of off trail. Really, that was great.
And finally, then the social aspect as an event like this with 300 odd people, has that been of interest or taken you by surprise compared to anything else you've done?
Absolutely, and a couple things was I bumped into another challenger on day 3. I was on my own, and we walked together for 12 kilometers, and it passed the time extremely well. It had been a tough day for me, so that really helped. And then, oddly, I found, suddenly I was looking for him at every other stop, saying, oh, where's Tony? Where's the guy that I walked with? I'd like to see how his challenge is going, and actually only found him today at the finish because he'd gone another route. But then managed to meet some spectacularly warm and welcoming people who'd done this 8, 10, 20 times. I met a group who'd done it 3 generations of challengers. And so that was sort of amazing, but very welcoming people, and kind of they introduced us to, I suppose, the spirit of what the TGO is. And I think without these people, it wouldn't be the TGO what it seems to have become in its history, I think. Yeah.
Finally, Siebren Zelstra from Holland, walking with Ronald Lankoff, completed their second crossing.
It's my second time, and to be honest, the first time we had tremendous good weather, and my friend and I said, well, it can't be better than this, so this is it, we've done it, got the t-shirt and stopped it right here. But that was 2 years ago. Last year we both had the feeling, what are we doing here? It was May, what are we doing here? We ought to be in Scotland. So we promised each other to go back in 2016, and we made a new route. And I think it's a tremendous. It's an absolute tremendous trip to be in the rough in Scotland, to see Scotland at its most beautiful way. Yeah.
And tell me about the terrain. Tell me about the landscape as you go from west to east.
We started in Strathcarron, and from Strathcarron on you are within 500 meters in the wild. There is no suburbs, no small villages. You are immediately in the terrain, and after that we crossed Loch Ness, and from Loch Ness on into the Monad Liat. And to be honest, I think the Monad Liat is for me the most impressive, the most natural way of Scotland. It's peat bogs. You have to find your way with your compass, and it was a bit drizzling all the way, which makes it even more Scotland and even more as it is. And for me, Monad Liat was the most impressive 3 days of the trip. After that, the Cairngorms, of course, hill up, hill down, and very, very nice. And then slowing down to Tarfside and St. Cyrus.
How did you find the navigating in the different terrains and the weather?
Not so difficult, actually. You have to you have a GPS, and that's your backup program. Only your backup program. We had printed maps and the compass, and we did everything on compass. And you look at your map, you look at your compass, you look at the terrain, vision the mountains, and vision your course, and keep your compass in your hand, and you manage through the terrain. And it's not very difficult, actually.
Oh, good. Now, I've seen you in some of the social events and the little villages that we go through and have a few drinks and so on. How have you found the social scene and the support and the friendship from people you've met along the way?
Nice, very nice. Our first challenge, we were very much on our own, and we both we both had the feeling that this time we were more into the in crowd of the challengers, and with quite a couple of yourself as well, with quite a couple of challengers we met along the way on several camping places. And you have a chat and you walk on, you have a chat and you walk on, and that was I think it's very attractive to have a sportive event as well as the social event, and I think it's a very good social event as it is. Yes, yeah.
So are you tempted to come again from Holland to all these lumpy bits?
I don't know actually, because the world is so big, and I like to do various kind of things. So, but I never say no, and I will be back, but it won't be next year, in 2 or 3 years perhaps. But yeah, I will be back, I think. But I'm not saying yes, and I'm not saying no.
So that's it for this podcast. Music was once again from the best Celtic rock band in Scotland, Tweed. If you're ever in the Aviemore area, you must call in to the Cairngorm Hotel, as they're regular performers there, and you're guaranteed an excellent foot-tapping, dancing night to ease away any pains. As I say, keep an eye on our podcast. Things are changing on the station, and I'll hopefully update you very soon. So once again, bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To hear more from our extensive free library, please visit the website at theoutdoorstation.co.uk, the home of UK-based audio and video podcasts for outdoors people everywhere.